Hey, I'm Derek, it's me, Derek, and welcome to Stop Skeletons from Fighting. I love the Tiger GameCom. If you watch this channel, that should not surprise you. Or maybe you've not heard of this ambitious competitor to the Game Boy, which had heart, but did not turn out so well. Launching in 1997, just ahead of Pokemon Fever, it had everything a gamer on the go could want. A touchscreen, PDA features, internet connectivity, a black and white screen, an aggressively 90s ad campaign,
and it plays more games than you idiots have brain cells!
and of course, games. Okay, actually, the GameCom was on the market for 3 years and only managed 20 games. And now, most people would tell you that these are terrible PowerPoint presentations that stretch the so-called definition of gaming and fun. And they are right. Gloriously right. Among the 20 games, which by the way were mostly developed in-house, there are a few genuine showstoppers. Sonic, Resident Evil, Duke Nukem, Mortal Kombat, Sega Fighters MEGAMIX. How in the world did a system like this manage gits like these? Is this a bug or a feature of capitalism? I don't have the answers, but here on Punching Weight, we celebrate the weird, ambitious, and unnecessary, and I just had to take a closer look. This is Tiger GameCom's amazing ports. Giant air quotes amazing. Someone at the door. Grace, come on. Oh, it's a Warby Parker ad, brought to you in part by Warby Parker. Need new glasses, but can't go to the store? Not a problem. I literally just went on their website, made an account, and I got 5 glasses to try for free for 5 days. Look at that. 1, 2, it's 5. 5 of them. For dramatic reasons, you pull back off.
Yeah.
And you point. And you put it back on, and you exit scene. Hey, it's me, your substitute teacher, Uncle Derek. We're gonna learn the alphabet. Who could it have been? Murder? I object. Not in this court. Yeah, these give me kind of a good, like, nerdy himbo vibe. I kind of like these, actually, yeah. The glasses start at $95, including prescription lenses, but I'm gonna add on blue light filtered lenses because they filter out blue light from phones and computers. My eyes are fine. Unstoppable. WarbyParker.com/stopskeletons. Get yourself 5 glasses shipped to your house for free. Free shipping, no obligation to buy. They even give you a return slip so when you want to ship them back. Live your life. WarbyParker.com/stopskeletons. Since the majority of my 2020 has already been dedicated to Sonic ports, might as well start with the port of Sonic Jam. Friends, let me tell you, it is hilarious how this is barely a port of Sonic Jam. It is impressive, really. First off, Sonic Jam on the Saturn was 2 things, a Namco Museum-style tribute to Sonic the Hedgehog, and a collection of his first 4 games. It had a pretty impressive for the time 3D world, and lots of cartoons, commercials, art, and so on, which in the early internet days was an awesome thing, and none of that is in the GameCom port. But that's not too surprising, honestly. What is surprising is that this port doesn't even have all 4 games. It is completely missing Sonic 1. You had one job, Gamecom, one job. And now to be fair, the back of the box states that it is just Sonics 2, 3, and Knuckles, so at least they're not lying to you. And then even then, it's a reach to say this game has Sonics 2, 3, and Knuckles. First of all, there's not even close to a full Sonic game here, much less 3. Each game is only 4 levels long, with only 1 zone apiece featuring multiple Robotnik fights. And while the Robotnik fights will be familiar, the levels may as well be total originals. Other than the occasional loop-de-loop or bouncy mushroom, these are not the levels found in the Genesis originals. It's amazing. The final boss in GameCom Sonic 2 is actually the first Robotnik fight in Emerald Hill Zone. You can't make this stuff up. This does make each venture mercifully short, however, there is another problem. It is impossible to beat either Sonic 3 or Knuckles with either Sonic or Knuckles. For example, in the first level of Sonic 3, it is impossible to run up inside this tree. I tried over and over again. I pushed either direction, I got more speed, I tried switching directions. I don't think it's actually possible to get up this thing. So the only solution is to play as Tails and just fly up and skip it. Oh, and by the way, Knuckles can't float or climb. He's basically just palette-swapped Sonic. There's also a handful of pits that I think would soft-lock the game if you weren't playing as Tails. No, but wait, they did include the bonus stages. I love this. Gotta collect all the black spheres. So they updated it for the black and white graphics. Good for them. If you thought the bonus stage controls on the Genesis originals were demanding, dude, there aren't enough save states in the universe. If you actually manage to collect every black sphere, I bet you're wondering, what the hell do the Chaos Emeralds do in this game? Well, my friends, there are no Chaos Emeralds in this game. Finishing the special stage just gets you more points. Like, why even bother putting it in the game then? I don't think more points gets you, like, an extra life or anything like that.
You can brag to all your GameCom friends.
You can. If you have a GameCom, you probably don't have any friends.
What?
Imagine being the kid bringing the GameCom to the recess. Look at me. Grace, you need to be the change you want to see in the world. And should we have a high score challenge in our Discord, in our community for Sonic Jam GameCom?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I will destroy them.
Yeah. And this is all without saying that the game itself controls like garbage. Simple jumps and getting up inclines is a monumental challenge. And like I mentioned earlier, some obstacles just flat out don't work. We'll be talking about this throughout this video, but the musical capabilities of the GameCom is something special. Listen to this. The music of Sonic Jam. When you think of Sonic, this is what I think, right? Oh, just like, oh. I think my favorite thing about the music on Sonic Jam is that they use the bonus stage song, but not in the bonus stage. You had one job! You got this, it's the one song that you can recognize. I don't even know why you had the bonus stage in the first place, and then you don't even put the music in it. It's so bad! How do you screw up this bad? I love it. Sonic Jam on the GameCom is my favorite kind of mess. One that is such a mess that it is genuinely impressive. And I know these words sound somewhat familiar. I said basically the exact same thing about the GBA port. So I guess I need to clarify myself a little bit. Which is the worst port? Well, they're both unbelievably bad and highly recommended. But the Tiger GameCom port, you kind of expect this, right? The GBA port had no right to be as bad as it was, so it takes the gold for me. But for what it's worth, things could have been different. In promotional flyers, there was a screenshot of Sonic 3D Blast, so either this was almost a 3D Blast port, or there were plans for more Sonic goodness on the GameCom after this. The GameCom is a weird system, and weirdos like me love it, but for most normal people, if they know about the GameCom, they probably know it as that one system that inexplicably has a damn port of Resident Evil 2. I mean, honestly, out of all the heavy hitters on this system, this is the one that stands out the most as, how did this happen? How? What? Here is why you want to play Resident Evil 2 on the GameCom. Seeing how they recreated this legendary game for this thing is amazing. The GameCom was able to make some pretty detailed sprite work, and the game's all here. Well, most of it. There's no other characters or cutscenes, but the streets, the police station, the sewer, the tram, the laboratory, the giant crocodile, it's all here, man. As a fan, it was fun squinting your eyes and trying to figure out what room are they trying to recreate here. In fact, if you're not a fan, if you're not familiar with this game, you'd be so hopelessly lost. And you know what? Stop the video, man. Moment of silence for the poor souls for whom this was their first Resident Evil experience. Alright, enough of that, because look at them animations. If you could call them that. Actually, movement in general is extremely sluggish. I'm not gonna mince words here. This game also controls like crap, but they made some really smart concessions for how things work. Leon can walk left to right to his heart's content, but the screen is divided into 3 virtual rows, high, medium, and low. Zombie placement tends to be super cheap. Now, thankfully, there's tons of ammo. However, that doesn't mean if you get jumped by a zombie, you'll be able to quickly draw your firearm and get shots off before taking a hit or two. And it's not hard to just run past a boss if you can't beat it. And I'm serious, I've tried dozens of times to beat this boss until I realized you can just strut past him. Just don't even bother. Same for the lickers and the spiders, run past them, it is not worth it. This game also lacks music, but has familiar sound effects like zombie groans and opening the menus. It's actually a pretty long game, so put on some background music or you will fall asleep. One thing you might not know about the Tiger GameCom is that the original model actually had 2 cartridge slots on it, kind of like how the Dreamcast controller has 2 memory card slots. This set the stage for one of the great unnecessary 2-disc games of all time, Resident Evil 2. That's right, if you missed it, Resident Evil 2 actually did not need to be on 2 discs. It was a combination of an audio compression accident and a brilliant PR move. But I bring this all up because the GameCom Resident Evil 2 port was almost a multi-cart game. A Leon cart that was released, and a Claire cart that, of course, never came to be. Nintendo lost Final Fantasy VII because they couldn't go multi-cart. If only Square had waited a few more years. I've talked about this port before, I'm still amazed it even exists, but even I wasn't prepared for the GameCom's next take on 3D. You see, at the beginning of Resident Evil 2, it has something very special. That's right, speech. It's pretty impressive, right? Well, strap in, because our next game stars a famously mouthy character, Duke Nukem. Now, if y'all need to know anything about me, is that I love ambitious first-person shooter ports, and the GameCom delivers with Duke Nukem 3D. Now tell me in the comments below, write me a letter, send me a postcard, I don't know, if this isn't the best thing you've ever heard. Okay, how about this one?
That's the second time those alien bastards shot up my ride.
What about this one?
I needed that.
There's no in-game music, but who needs it when you got bangers like this? The rest of the game is so charming, man. I'm gonna be honest with you. For what it's worth, I think this is genuinely the most impressive and playable GameCom game. First off, again, we got big ol' sprites. When they get up close, they fill the whole screen, man. It's pretty cool. Again, animations aren't amazing, but at this point, you gotta let that go. Come on. Movement is streamlined. Frankly, you don't do a lot of it, and that makes the game way more enjoyable. There is no turning, only strafing, and there are 3 buttons dedicated to aiming, and thankfully the game is very generous with aiming. The controls are still not hyper responsive, but I just didn't fight with them the same way I did in Resident Evil and Sonic. This is an FPS, and shooting dudes feels good, and at the end of the day, that is all this game had to do. Come get some. Rockin', groovy, whatever Duke Nukem says. Areas are either big, open rectangles or straight, narrow hallways. The open rooms feature lots of aliens to blast and the occasional obstacles to maneuver around, items to pick up. This is where you can honestly say Duke Nukem 3D on the Tiger GameCom clicks. However, the hallway segments remind me of Phantasy Star 1 on Master System, and the problem here is that there's no way to avoid shots. There's no way to not take a hit from enemies, but still, you got multiple guns. Health, armor, 3 episodes, 4 difficulty levels. The near constant stream of bit-crushed voice clips from Duke have me laughing my ass off.
Damn, I'm good.
I don't know what else to say. I live for this kind of crap. The interesting thing about porting is the concessions. What are you gonna change when you bring it down to another system? Now, when Duke Nukem came to the Game Boy Color, they didn't even try to do an FPS. Instead, they just remade the DOS games, which was a smart move for the Game Boy Color. Now, for the GameCom, we've seen how actually doing 2D platformers is way hard to do. You couldn't do that on the GameCom. I honestly believe that this weird FPS thing is genuinely the best way you could have brought Duke 3D to the GameCom. This is as good as it gets. Confidence Stone, the best game on GameCom is Duke Nukem 3D, Uncle Derek. But of course, it's the only FPS on the system, so there's nothing to compare it to. For the record, we almost got Turok Dinosaur Hunter, and who knows, maybe it would have been awesome too, maybe better. We will never know what it would have been like to have had 2 FPSs on the system, but we did get 2 Tiger GameCom fighting games. Mortal Kombat has a long and storied porting history, especially with Tiger. We talked about this a bit last year, I just wanted to set the stage. I mean, this isn't a terrible port. Multiple difficulties, 1 friendship, brutality, babality, and fatality per character, 13 characters, 10 stages, it's nothing to sneeze at. Oh, and online. Yeah, this system had online capabilities. Remember that second port I told you about? Well, that would be where the internet cart goes, and it would connect to the GameCom modem, also sold separately. Just so you know, there are only 300,000 GameComs sold and probably way fewer net carts and modems. It is very possible that no one has ever played this game online. Can you imagine the netcode? Actually, you might not need to use your imagination because playing this game already feels like a laggy dial-up experience. You got super stiff controls that make special moves extremely hard to do, that patented poor animation, and then connecting with your opponent is basically a coin toss. I think it's possible to do combos, but just learn a special move and then spam that thing. It's made worse by the fact that MK Trilogy, which was basically MK3 Super Turbo, is a 6-button game. 2 punches, 2 kicks, block, and run. But the GameCom only has 4 buttons, so naturally you'd think, all right, yeah, back to block and then double tap forward to run, and you still get your 2 kicks and your 2 punches. But nope! That's a good idea, right? Nah, you still have your 2 high kicks and low kicks, but for some amazing reason, there is still that MK patented block button and only 1 punch. Why still have 2 kicks then? Why not just go 1 kick, 1 punch? You can't make this stuff up, dude. They charged money for this. There are only 2 modes, normal and versus. Versus is online or link cable only, so really it's just normal Mortal Kombat. Once you choose a character, you can choose 4 different sized towers. When you first jump in, you'll notice enemies are super aggressive, like every fight is them putting like major pressure on you. This is because the game defaults to hard. Now if you go to the options and you pick very easy, it's suddenly the exact opposite. Now they never chase you down. It's some of the laziest AI I've ever seen. But no matter the difficulty or the tower you choose, it doesn't really matter. Once you get to Motaro or Shao Kahn, they can take you out in just 3 hits. 3! And for the record, you don't have the same 3 Punch Man superpowers if you were playing as them. And if you die, you get to continue, which actually resets your tower. That's not what continuing means. The only difference between continuing and running the clock out is whether or not you want to go all the way back to the title screen again. To properly beat this game, you have to never lose, and that is basically impossible because Motaro and Shao Kahn are so overpowered. Once again, no music, like at all, but lots of good speech and sound effects, which again you can sample in the options menu. Not the speech clips though, just the 10 sound effects that grace this game. The best thing about MK Trilogy isn't MK Trilogy at all. The best thing is that we can see how a fighting game can work, or at least work better, on the Tiger GameCom. Sega Fighters Megamix. Just as a background, Fighters Megamix is a 1996 Saturn exclusive fighting game released in the lead up to Virtua Fighter 3. It is a celebration of Sega AM2's arcade games. It's basically Sega's Smash Bros. Or King of Fighters. It is mainly composed of characters from Virtua Fighter and Fighting Vipers, but you can also fight as the car from Daytona, USA, the AM2 tree logo, even a hunk of meat. It's a time capsule of when Sega was relevant, just as their mistakes were catching up to them. It is a game that celebrated being dumb, so it makes sense that the only port of this game is on the Tiger GameCom. Fighters Megamix exists in exactly two places, the Saturn and the GameCom. That's like the best thing in the world. That's the greatest thing I've ever heard. And yet, it still punches above its weight. Look at this game. Look at this thing trying to do 3D. At its core, it's still a 2D game, but look how cool those backgrounds are. I mean, y'all saw Mortal Kombat Trilogy. They didn't need to do this. The ring rotates, there's parallax scrolling, plus even the sheer amount of arenas. 16, what? Yes! I mean, they all look basically the same, but technically, there are 16 arenas. Even the gameplay has variety. The Fighting Vipers characters have armor that can shoot off, there's multiple modes and difficulties, and this game has a respectable 12 character roster. Now, it doesn't come close to the original roster. You can't play as a giant hunk of beef, but you can still play as Janet from Virtua Cop, Chibi Sarah from Virtua Fighter, and the car from Daytona. And this car is so OP! Look, it punches and kicks with its wheels, but my favorite part is the jump kick. It's just, yo, I'm a car and I'm heavy. No animation at all, just look out, falling car. It's great. Like the rest of the games discussed, there's pretty recognizable sound effects and plenty of voice speech. However, this is one of the few games to also have music throughout. I mean, it's not good music. It's your standard, like, one note, John Cage, is this even technically music soundtrack, but it's there. But does it actually play well? I mean, for a GameCom game, yeah. For starters, Fighters Megamix had a much simpler button layout. Punch, kick, block, dodge. 4 buttons, perfect for the system. Moves, on the other hand, are way scaled back. For example, my girl Pi only has one special move, same for the car. There are combos, but they're really hard to pull off. Movement and collision feels a little tighter than MK Trilogy, but it's still not really good. Often, a simple jump kick would register like 2 or 3 separate hits. Sometimes rounds can feel really unfair. Mercifully, Fighters Megamix doesn't overstay its welcome. One player mode, online/versus mode, and survival. One player has 4 courses comprising of 6 fights, and completing each one unlocks the 4 special characters. Just so you know, Course C is how you unlock the Daytona car. You can even switch to easy and 1 round to unlock the 4 characters faster. Once you're done with that, man, see how many wins you can rack up in survival mode. Honestly, played this game for about an hour, tried out a handful of characters, unlocked everyone, and then felt like I'd had my fill. And it didn't have any kind of impossible levels or bosses like Sonic, Resident Evil, Mortal Kombat. It felt good to walk away from a GameCom game on my own terms. And that is the highest praise I could genuinely give a GameCom game. It felt good to walk away from it. 5 stars. It was amazing what the GameCom managed to get. I can only assume Tiger formed some incredible relationships with their nauseating library of LCD games. Naturally, there were many games announced for the GameCom that never saw release. Through various brochures and previews, I can confirm that the world was almost graced with Castlevania Symphony of the Night, Metal Gear Solid, Turok Dinosaur Hunter, Command & Conquer Red Alert, Madden, and something called Furby Land. Now, you might say we were spared these ports, but that is chump talk. We were robbed of these ports. I wished that I could be here telling you, laughing with you at the Symphony of the Night soundtrack playing through the GameCom sound chips. Would Psycho Mantis and Metal Gear Solid also make the Castlevania reference if you had both games inserted? Dude, I bet Command & Conquer would have used the touchscreen and it would have been terrible. And I may never know peace again, not with the knowledge that there was almost a game called Furby Land. Was it a Tamagotchi style game? Was it the GameCom's answer to Pokemon? or something more sinister. I had so much fun making this episode. The GameCom is a thing of beauty. And I don't even have the actual system. I played everything on a debug emulator developed by the actual GameCom team, and given the quality of that screen, I'd say this is the preferred method to play it. So yes, absolutely the GameCom was a bad idea, but I am also so grateful that we got this thing. I am Uncle Derek, behind the camera is producer Grace. This was the 50th episode of Punching Weight. This show would not be possible without the support of all of our patrons, present and past. They get to see episodes early, they get their names here in the credit, as well as get to chat it up with everybody in the Bone Dungeon, our official Discord community. So if you want to be a part of that, throw us $1. It is only $1, but hey, if you can't do that right now, just keep watching. Tell your friends. And you know what? Stay powerful, because we will see you again real soon.